back, Holistic Soul Sisters. It's me, Mandy Rose, your relational astrologer. And in today's video, we are going to talk all about this Mercury retrograde happening in the zodiac sign of Gemini. Today, I wore my Virgo shirt because I am a Virgo sun, and Virgo is the sister sign to Gemini. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So if you have heavy Gemini or Virgo placements in your birth chart, so let's say you're a Virgo sun or a Gemini moon, you are going to be most heavily impacted by this Mercury retrograde. So in this video today, we are going to talk all about this Mercury retrograde. Who is Mercury? What is a retrograde? What is his specific retrograde trying to teach us? Because remember, as a relational astrologer, I consider each planet to be a life coach to us, constantly teaching us lessons that we're meant to learn in this lifetime. But retrogrades are those very specific moments in time where there is a direct message from that planet, from that life coach to us. So I'm going to translate that message for you guys in this video. We're also going to talk about some dates that are happening during this Mercury retrograde that you should put on your calendar and pay attention to. And of course, at the end of this video, I will be giving you some do's and don'ts to help you navigate this Mercury retrograde. So let's start out with the basics. This Mercury retrograde is kicking off on May 10th of 2022 and lasting us all the way until June 3rd. Mercury will be starting his retrograde at 4 degrees of Gemini, which is an air sign. And then as he retrogrades backwards, he's actually going to go back into the zodiac sign of Taurus, where he will end at 26 degrees of Taurus. Now, something to note for 2022 is that all Mercury retrogrades, and there's 3 of them, will be starting out in an air sign and ending in an earth sign. So what does that mean? Well, air signs are all about the mind, the logical mind. So our thoughts, our communication, ideas that we have, our dreams and plans, everything that is up here in the mind. Now, earth signs, on the other hand, are very grounded and very practical. It rules the material world, the physical manifestation of our ideas. So all the Mercury retrogrades that are happening in 2022 are meant to help us take our ideas and our thoughts and our dreams and that next level concept that we have up here and put it into the world. Birth it into the tangible plane. So let's say, for instance, you had an idea to start a business for a really long time. The Mercury retrogrades are going to help you reevaluate, reassess, redo some things to birth that idea, that inspiration that you have into your everyday existence. So this is really exciting. So this is the second Mercury retrograde out of 3 that we're going to experience in 2022. The first one we had back in February, which retrograded from Aquarius back into Capricorn. This Mercury retrograde is going from Gemini into Taurus, and later on in September, we will have a Mercury retrograde that goes from Libra back into Virgo. Now, I know so many of us are starting new chapters of our lives, which is a new job, moving somewhere new, maybe a new relationship, birthing a new business idea. In this new chapter of our lives that we've been anticipating and working towards for the last couple of years, we are now wanting to rush forward and move into that next chapter as fast as we possibly can. But this Mercury retrograde for us is such a large message to take it slow. We'll talk so much more about that in this video, but the overlying theme here is to take our mind, take our thoughts, take all the things that we need to collect data-wise, information-wise, conversation-wise, and take it slow. Get all of our facts, all of our ducks in a row before we run into that next chapter of our lives. So this is a time to go slow. Now, also, we cannot forget that as Mercury retrogrades from Gemini back into Taurus, he is going to be re-entering the part of the sky where these eclipses occur. So Mercury kicks off his retrograde on May 10th, and then on the 15th, we're going to have an eclipse in Taurus. So we are going to see a lot of energy, a lot of things happening during this eclipse season that is related to Mercury, our mind, understanding something, finding out information, communicating with somebody, or maybe getting a message sent to us that we're going to have to reanalyze, reprocess, redo with our mind. So pay attention to how this Mercury retrograde fits in to the overlying theme of the eclipses, which are eclipsing new things and eclipsing old things out of your life. But before we dive into all of that, let's backtrack just for a moment. Let's talk about life coach Mercury. Who is he and what is his purpose in our lives? We can see him depicted here in Greek mythology with wings on his feet. He was known as the messenger and was known for spreading communication from one person to another. So Mercury in astrology represents the area of our mind, how we speak, the words we use, the tones, the language, who we like to speak with, the collection of information. So how our mind likes to research or investigate or learn things, how our mind then takes that information and processes that information. So when it comes to Mercury, this is all about speaking, listening, communicating, teaching. He loves to be the social butterfly. He loves to go around and talk to different people, gather information from many different sources. Mercury also rules over the area of our life that relates to technology, especially social media, because, right, he's the social butterfly and he rules technology. He also rules things like our computers and our laptops. He rules transportation, so things like our car or bicycles, trains, buses, things like that. Overall, Mercury's message to us is to help us become better communicators. He wants us to have better relationships, better networking skills by learning the art of communication. When to speak, when to listen, the words to use, how we communicate, how we teach. He is all about helping us have those better relationships. So as a relational astrologer, I absolutely look to Mercury all the time in compatibility readings to help people better understand each other's communication styles. But then what happens when Mercury goes retrograde, right? Because when he goes retrograde, there is a major lesson for here to learn. And he usually gets a bad rap for having a retrograde, right? It's always in like pop culture and the news. Oh no, Mercury's retrograde, bad things are gonna happen. That's not actually the case. When we have a retrograde, essentially it's an optical illusion in the sky where it appears as if the planet Mercury is moving backwards. And essentially from our perspective here on Earth, as we're looking up at Mercury in the sky, he is going back over the part of the sky that he has already walked through. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment when we get to the dates of this Mercury retrograde, but just know that there's going to be areas of our life that we have to do over, right? Retrograde, reanalyze, recommit, reassess, recommunicate, redo in some way. Retrogrades have to do with the words re. So it's a moment to pause and go inward because Mercury's the social butterfly. He likes to talk, he likes to teach, he likes to go out, he likes to gather information, he likes to do. But in his retrograde, it's meant to go inward. We're meant to recommit to something or go back over some contracts or information that we need to have. If you have your 2022 Retrograde Astrology Journal, you're going to want to open it up to the month of May, flip it over to the other side, and you're going to see here that I have 2 pages dedicated to this Mercury retrograde. And I talk all about who is Life Coach Mercury. What is a Mercury retrograde? When he's in Gemini retrograding, what themes are going to get brought up? And I also share with you guys things that you can expect and a perfect time to do these certain things and make sure you get them on your calendar during the 3-week period of Mercury's retrograde. I, of course, gave you do's and don'ts to abide by during this Mercury retrograde and some journal prompts to help you reflect. If you have your retrograde journal and you fill out these prompts, I always encourage people to fill them out at the beginning of the retrograde, come back at the halfway point, which I'm going to give you in just a moment, and also when the retrograde is over. So you can reanalyze your thought process, Mercury, during the retrograde to see what epiphanies or what new information you've gathered. Because during a Mercury retrograde, you're going to gather more information. It's going to help you move into the next chapter of your life. Now, we have to consider that Mercury is at home in Gemini. He rules Gemini, so he's in his full power here. So he's able to give us all the lessons we need around the Gemini themes, which again rules communication, technology, transportation, the same things that Mercury rules because Mercury is at home here. So overall, what we're meant to do during this retrograde is to go back to something in your life that you've started, but you haven't completed yet, right? Or maybe it's a time to pause. You've been rushing forward on your goal or your dream or your next chapter, but you haven't taken time to do the back end stuff. This is a huge conversation I've been having with a lot of people, is making sure that all of your ducks are in a row, all your contracts are done correctly, all of your communication and your social media and the back end stuff of your life is taken care of. If it deals with your family, you want to make sure that you have the correct life insurance policies or the right insurance. If it deals with a relationship, make sure that you're communicating properly, making sure you're talking about your communication styles. Make sure you're just communicating in general so you're both on the same page. If it has to do with a business, you want to make sure your social media, your back ends, your contracts, all of the things that relate to your business on the backside. Don't worry so much about making the sales and growing the business or the brand. You got to do the back end stuff during this Mercury retrograde. If it has to do with your home, make sure that you have all of the things that you need, all of your files organized. Maybe you have backups of files. Again, Mercury retrogrades bring hiccups and delays and miscommunication. So you want to make sure that you have all your stuff organized, backed up, and ready to go. So when your next chapter blows up and you are living your best life in whatever area of your life that you're hoping to improve, you don't have to worry about the back end stuff. That is the blessing and the lesson of this Mercury retrograde in Gemini. Now, I want to talk about the specific dates that you're going to want to mark on your calendar during this Mercury retrograde because there are going to be some shifts in energetic changes. But before we do that, I want to preface this with saying there are going to be 3 major players during this Mercury retrograde. And if you follow my astrology, you know that if things happen in threes, it's something we really need to pay attention to. So of course, the first key player is Mercury himself. He is our life coach during this one. Number 2 is going to be Jupiter. We're going to talk more about that, but Jupiter plays a big factor because he is making a shift into a new zodiac sign that he has not been in 12 years, and he does it on the same exact date that this Mercury retrograde begins. And the third key player is going to be tough love dad, Lord Karma himself, Saturn. And this is important because Saturn actually starts his retrograde on the same day that Mercury ends his retrograde. So let me say that one more time. Mercury starts his retrograde on May 10th. On that day, Jupiter moves into a sign that he hasn't been to in 12 years. On the day Mercury ends his retrograde is the day that Saturn begins his retrograde. So bookending this Mercury retrograde, we have a very impactful transition on the front end and a very impactful transition on the back end. So we need to pay attention to what those planets, also life coaches to us, are trying to send us and to communicate to us during this Mercury retrograde. So let's go ahead and dive right in. The dates you're going to want to mark on your calendar. The first one that's really important during this Mercury retrograde is the day that Mercury entered what we call his pre-shadow phase. It's the part of the sky that he will circle all the way back to when he ends his retrograde, and that happened on April 26th. Now, I know this is in the past, but it wasn't that long ago, so you can still think back to this day. This was 4 days before that first eclipse. So this was Tuesday, April 26th. This was the week leading up to the eclipse. And I know from doing so many readings that week and to talking to so many people, that was the week that things really started to change. On the 26th, Mercury was at 26 degrees of Taurus. That is going to be where he ends up at the end of his retrograde. So he's going to have a full circle moment. We're all going to come back to the themes or the events that occurred in that week leading up to the eclipse. So pay attention to that. Do some journaling around it. Maybe think back, take some notes. What was coming up for you? What circumstance happened in your life around the 26th of April? The next date you're going to want to put on your calendar, which is happening right now, is May 10th. This is the day that Mercury kicks off his retrograde. Now, he has gone all the way from 26 degrees of Taurus, back on April 26th, all the way to 4 degrees of Gemini, where he is kicking off his retrograde on May 10th. On that date as well, like I mentioned, Jupiter is entering Aries. This is huge. It is one of the biggest astrological transits of the entire year. And it's so important because Jupiter has just left Pisces. Pisces is the 12th and final zodiac sign. And when he enters Aries, or any planet enters Aries, it is a reset because Aries is the first sign of the astrological wheel. So Jupiter is doing a full reset, entering the zodiac sign of Aries, bringing a brand new chapter for us in Jupiter areas of our life. Jupiter is that life coach that brings blessing, abundance, expansion, luck, prosperity. He is all about our belief systems and having faith and wanting us to grow and level up through learning lessons. He is the eternal teacher to us. So when this happens, it is this new chapter, and he has not been in Aries for 12 years. So think back to 2010. What was going on in your life at that time? Because Jupiter is back. And he is going to be bringing us a lot of blessing and abundance in the Aries area of our life. Now, when Jupiter enters Aries, because he rules faith and he rules abundance and prosperity, and Aries is all about action, not thinking about it, just doing the thing that we want to do. So this is going to be a just do it. Put your money where your mouth is. You want to run for your dream. You want to enter that next chapter of your life. He's going to help you have faith. He's going to help you make decisions and move forward and bring blessings when you can take action. So this is really important. He's going to be in Aries all the way until October. I'm going to talk so much more about this in the upcoming astrology because it's a very important date. So this is on May 10th, kicks off the energy of this Mercury retrograde. Now, on May 21st, that is the halfway point of this Mercury retrograde. So at this point, we've now experienced communication issues, technology issues, social media issues, and problems come back around that we thought were completely solved. Maybe we started working on some projects that we've left on the back burner, doing the things that we haven't made time to do, but we're circling back and fixing them on the back end. So when Mercury is halfway through his retrograde on May 21st, we also have another impactful thing going on in the sky on that same exact day. And that is the sun entering the zodiac sign of Gemini at 0 degrees. That means that Mercury and the sun both go into Gemini on the same exact day, except for the sun is moving forward and Mercury is moving backwards, and they meet up in the sky at 0 degrees of Gemini. On this day, whatever communication issues you've been having, whatever problems have come up, whatever delays, whatever hiccups have been happening during this Mercury retrograde, on this day, the halfway point, the problem becomes so clear, along with the solutions and the timeline of how long this is going to last. So this is kind of that pivotal moment where it's like, oh, I get what's going wrong here. I get what I've messed up or forgot to do. Now I just have to correct it and fix it. It's going to take me this long. I have to circle back around. I know the right resources. I know the right people. And you can get moving on solving the problem or overcoming the delay or the hiccup. So this is such an impactful day. The next day on May 22nd is the day that Mercury officially moves back into Taurus. So on the 21st, he meets up with the sun. He's halfway through his retrograde. He gets the light bulb moment because the sun illuminates things, right? The sun makes everything bright so we can see clearly. On the 21st, we see clearly the problem. We see the solution. We know what we need to do. We're like, yes, I got it. This has been so frustrating, but now I just have to put in the work and make it happen and fix the mistakes or redo, reanalyze, reassess, whatever reword is happening to you at that moment. The next day, Mercury goes back into Taurus, making us circle all the way back around to the Taurus area of our life where the eclipses are occurring. And this is the moment where our idea, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, our idea or what's going on up here gets birthed into reality. Now we can take tangible, practical steps in a realistic, material way to solve the problem, to birth the idea, to bring it to fruition into our tangible, every single day experience. Now, at that point on May 22nd, yes, Gemini will keep backing up in Taurus, backing up all the way until June 3rd, where he comes out of retrograde, where he stops and he comes back to that exact same place he was on April 26th. And then on May 30th, we have a new moon in Gemini. This is going to be a huge new moon, a new chapter, because all the new and full moons in the zodiac sign of Gemini for the last 18 months have been eclipses. This is the first new moon in Gemini in over a year and a half that has not been an eclipse. And it's happening during this Mercury retrograde while Mercury is retrograding through Gemini. So this is very important because this Mercury retrograde is happening from Gemini to Taurus. We used to have the eclipses in Gemini Now we have the eclipses in Taurus. So you can see how this eclipse energy, the things that are starting in our lives, the new chapters, and the things that we're letting go of and releasing in our lives have to do with the eclipses, is heavily impacted to this Mercury retrograde, which is all about our mind, gathering information, processing that information, communicating that information back out into the world, and socializing with other people. All things that we need to do to move into the next chapter of our lives. So now earlier, remember I mentioned you're going to want to take note at what happened to you on that week leading up to the eclipse. Because here we go, on June 3rd, Mercury has made his way all the way back to the spot. So he's realized the problems, we've corrected some things, we've done some back-end work, we've now realized how we can fix it in a realistic, practical way, and now here we are. When Mercury comes out of retrograde, it gives us the chance to redo. A second chance, if you will, to make the right decision, to do the right thing, and to move forward on our life and in our dreams. Now, don't forget, on this exact same day, Saturn goes retrograde. He kicks off his retrograde. And Saturn's retrogrades are a little challenging because Saturn is all about tough love, helping us mature, so he gives us obstacles and challenges and makes us, or forces us sometimes when we don't listen, to level up. And so when he kicks off his retrograde, this is going to be 5 months of us needing to take responsibility for the things that we need to do personally, not putting them on other people, not waiting for the universe to give it to us, but us taking the responsibility we need to move into that next chapter. And we just hopefully learn that lesson during the Mercury retrograde. So if that's the case, Saturn will bless us. Saturn will help us. But if we didn't learn the lesson on what we needed to do on the back end, it's going to be a lot more challenging as we move into the month of June. And then from June 4th all the way until June 18th, Mercury is going to be in what we call his post-shadow phase. That is our do-over chance time frame. So he's going to be then moving all the way from 26 degrees of Taurus one more time all the way back to 4 degrees of Gemini on June 18th, and then he will officially be back on track, moving forward in the sky, on to nether lessons, all the way until he gets to the zodiac sign of Libra, where he will then do another retrograde in September. So for now, we are really meant to take a pause to understand that this isn't a time for us to move forward. This isn't a time for us to get out there and start new projects or to launch things or to make changes or to sign contracts. We just want to work on the things that we already have going on, circle back to old projects, maybe circle back to old conversations, old friendships, old loose ends we need to tie up, take a pause, and get ready to move into that next chapter of our lives. So hopefully that helped you guys. Before I wrap up this video, of course, I'm going to give you some do's and don'ts that you should be doing around this Mercury retrograde that's going to help you harness the energy and maximize this lesson for you as we move forward. So let's start off with the do's. The first thing you're going to want to do is game plan, strategize your next move. This is all about going back over, re-understanding, reassessing, recommitting, redoing something. And in order to do that, we have to get more information. So don't worry so much about talking or speaking or teaching or communicating, but instead listening and learning and gathering instead of doing. The second thing you're gonna wanna do during this Mercury retrograde is to limit your social media presence. So this isn't really a time, like I said, to go out there, because you might notice with Mercury retrograde, we have technology hiccups. So you might be trying to post things and they're not uploading. Maybe you tried to do it a certain way, and then when it actually uploaded, it was with like the wrong video or the wrong audio. You're gonna spend a lot of time trying to correct problems using technology. So instead of, say it usually takes you 5 minutes to record a video and upload it, during this Mercury retrograde, it might take you a half hour or an hour. So that is the lesson from Mercury of like, hey, this isn't a time to go out. Take that hour instead and use it to game plan or figure out your strategy, or maybe take time to call a friend or spend time with your significant other instead, communicating with those that matter to you, not trying to go out and launch and create and do. So do limit your social media exposure if you are a content creator, but also consuming the content. There is going to be so much miscommunication. There's going to be so many people trying to say things that maybe aren't truthful because during this Mercury retrograde, we're gonna have a full moon in Scorpio. Scorpio is all about secrets and betrayal and lies, and we have a lot of planets still in Pisces, which is all about illusion and dreaming and not seeing clearly. So what you're seeing, what you're reading may not be truthful, so don't invest your time on technology or social media. And the third thing you're going to want to do during this Mercury retrograde is to reach out to old friends, old relationships, people that you just haven't spent a lot of time communicating with because you've been so busy with this new chapter of your life. So circle back around, reach out. Remember, Mercury and Gemini is the social butterfly. He loves to talk, he loves to chat. But remember, you cannot forget to listen more than you speak. So ask questions, gather information, but make sure you are learning the lesson of listening during this Mercury retrograde. And for the don'ts, obviously it's a Mercury retrograde, so you are not going to want to sign any contracts, do any paperwork, write up anything new. Now, if it's something that's already been planned, then that's okay because you've already looked at it with fresh eyes. But during a Mercury retrograde, we miss things. We forget to check things over. We maybe sign the wrong date. So you are not going to want to sign any kind of contracts because you'll probably have to circle back around and fix it, or maybe you might not be able to fix it and you're going to have to live with it in the next chapter of your life. So just take a pause. The second thing you're not going to want to do is launch any new projects. So let's say you've been wanting to do a new art project, or maybe you've wanted to start workshops or do something within your business. This isn't the time to launch. This is the time to marinate, to redo, to make sure it's perfect. Again, do the back end stuff. So no launching anything new. Wait till June 3rd. Mercury tries to teach us patience during a retrograde. And the last thing I talk about this during all Mercury retrogrades is you're not going to want to engage in any malicious conversations. Don't participate in gossip. Don't talk about other people. Be very careful with sending text messages that you don't send it to the wrong person. I constantly hear during Mercury retrogrades that someone said something or messaged something to someone and it got back to someone else and it was just a whole disaster. The shadow side of Gemini energy is gossiping. And because Lord Saturn, Lord Karma is involved, it's gonna come back and bite you in the butt. So just don't do it. Don't participate in gossip. Don't write about other things. Just stay in your own lane and work on the back end of stuff. That is the best way to get through this Mercury retrograde. All right, so I'm gonna wrap up this video. I know this was so much content about this Mercury retrograde. Again, if you have your retrograde journal, make sure you're using it. We are now in retrograde season. We have Pluto retrograde. Mercury is going retrograde. On the day he comes out of retrograde, it's Saturn's turn, then Jupiter, Chiron, and all the other planets. Up to 7 planets at once we get to August. So if you haven't gotten your retrograde journal, now that it's retrograde season, they are on sale for $25. You can grab a copy in the description box below. I have the link there. I'll ship it out to you and you'll get it within a couple days. And you will have your handy cheat sheet, your do's and don'ts, and your journal prompts to get you through all the retrogrades. So you're learning the lessons these life coaches are meant to be teaching you. For more astrology content, make sure you follow me over on TikTok at The Relational Astrologer, where I talk not only about our life coaches, but how you can have better relationships with yourself and with other people using astrology. And then of course, I'm over at holistic.soul.sisters on Instagram, where we talk all about holistic health, spirituality, astrology, and just overall up-leveling our lives in all ways possible. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. In a couple days, I will be releasing the next full moon video, which will be a lunar eclipse in the zodiac sign of Scorpio. So stay tuned for that and all the other retrograde videos I have coming up. Thank you for sharing this video to anyone you think will benefit. Make sure you give your Gemini and Virgo friends just a little extra love during this Mercury retrograde because they're the signs impacted the most. And I wish you the smoothest Mercury retrograde, and I will catch you in the next video.